a scion of many worlds. All right, that's all the major councils warned and messages sent to the minor ones. Elder Granzi pacified, Emmanuel states after leaving his last quick warning to the Starseeker Council and the ambassadors from the Free Cities and the Breakaway Empire. Pacified? Is dealing with me just work? Granzi demands incredulously. Not to be rude, but I have a lot of demands on my time and attention. I need to speak with the oligarchs of the Goldlands and whatever council they've managed to cobble together in Greenstone. Then I need to find the surviving elders of Bright Dawn and tell them what's coming. Is it really that bad? Magrisa asks as she's shifted to sitting on his shoulder. Yes and no. It's not all that bad in that the main thing happening is a lot of resources. But even prosperity can bring doom if mishandled. If you have a huge harvest, eat it all down to nothing in a few feasts and then starve for months, did you really have a good harvest? No. If something so short-sighted is done, then you will destroy your community and... Oh, Granzi says, even if there is not a single apathetic or ill-intentioned actor on the way to Lacran, the sheer wealth approaching can and will crush us if we're not careful. It is important to drink clean water, but you can still drown in it, Magrika says. Exactly. It's like eating a perfect meal. 1 serving is nice, 2 can be better, 3 is indulgent, but your stomach starts to hurt at 4, 5 will hurt worse, and 6 can actually harm you if you haven't been harmed already. It doesn't matter how good something is, too much can only cause harm. Emmanuel explains. Even wealth. It's hard to wrap your mind around, but well, look to the history of the Slever states. They were immensely wealthy, and so, obsessed with that wealth, they became the enemy of the entire world. It was trivial to rally forces against them. I think I understand, Magrisa says as she crosses her arms and thinks. It's easy enough to understand. There's no time more vulnerable, brittle, and frail than a time of plenty. Granzi states as she has one of her antennae in claw and runs her claws down it, depressing the fur and feeling it spring back up. No time a silk weaver is more clumsy and careless than when there is an abundance of silk. Precisely. Not to mention the sheer whiplash from desperation to wealth or the simple fact that no matter where you go, there are always going to be some people who won't be content until the people around them have less than they do, even if they have more wealth in their arms than ever before. Emmanuel sighs and runs a claw down his face. The sensation of his shimmering fur righting itself focuses him a touch. Societal and behavioral issues are much messier than standard science or military affairs. There's the person's genetic history, childhood, personal whims and experiences to consider, and even if you know all of them, a person still can't and won't remain within expected parameters. Aw, big man having a hard time with people? Magrika asks. People as a whole? No. You can predict large groups easily enough, but I'm holding myself to a higher standard. I don't want anyone to fall between the cracks, so I'm looking at each individual person. That's flagrantly impossible. Even in a small village, you can't save everyone. There's always an outcast, and it's no one's fault. It's just, no matter how good you've made something, no matter how peaceful, exciting, plentiful, or hungry a people are, it is someone's definition of torment. Granzi states. There's something very bitter in her voice. Someone she knew personally, perhaps even loved, was one such person. I know, Emmanuel states. Is there a reason you're always trying to do the impossible? Magrika asks. Things will never get better for anyone if we shrink away from our challenges. Just because a problem seems unsolvable is no excuse to ignore it or refuse to solve it. Just because a foe seems unbeatable is no excuse not to fight them. Impossible just means you need to try harder, Emmanuel says. I want to argue that, but I've seen you pull knowledge and memories out of nothingness and come back from the dead after fighting an army of ghosts. Magrica notes, and he chuckles. Hey, if I won't do the impossible, who will? Emmanuel asks before turning as he senses a teleport. There's a blur of movement, and after a bit of grappling, he fends off Horus. Me, little brother, I will do the impossible. Like besting a primal in a brawl, Emmanuel challenges him. His smile is wide enough that it can be seen despite the floof. Do it! Do it! Do it! Magrica cheers. That's one vote in favor. I'm a king, this ain't no democracy. Then as your superior officer, I command you to try and kick my ass. I'll do more than try, but I think we need an audience. Emmanuel says, The little tour of the valley my sweet little niece is leading? Horus asks. Great minds think alike. Oh my goodness, this is the being whose memories you share? I'm shocked you didn't go completely mad in the form of an Orthani. Elder Granzi notes in a shocked tone. To be fair, he's put on some weight since that copy was made. That doesn't make it better. He has no wings, he has no antenna, no fur nor claws. How long were you Orthani before you came to me? A day at most, Emmanuel considers. I entrusted an unclaimed new Hotch with an adult name, a new Hotch who had not even spent time as a proper larva. Elder Granzi moans into her claws. Dude, how many traditions did you break? Horus asks as he watches the elder sob into her claws. From her reaction, all of them. Emmanuel states, and both he and Horus break apart, and he kneels down to her level. Elder, I apologize for me trans. You are the victim. Why are you apologizing? You were an unclaimed, abandoned new hatch. No village, no family. I should have stopped you. Regardless of the ferocity in your eyes, I should have kept you close and guided you. It is my duty, to my people, to all Orthani. Well then, as the aggrieved party, I forgive you, he says, placing a comforting claw on her shoulder. You can't just. It's about more than what harm has or has not befallen you. I had a duty to maintain. The elder of an Orthani village is the matriarch of the tribe, duty-bound to nurse, protect, and teach. A tribeless child is the elder's child until such time they are ready to be of the tribe or are ready to leave. Only exile or banishment can excuse this dereliction of duty. Elder Granzi, I was a warrior on a mission. Allowing you to fulfill your duty would have been a dereliction of my own. Traditions and laws give us an amazing groundwork to live off of. However, it must be allowed some flexibility. Otherwise, it grows brittle and will break under odor situations. Emmanuel says, and he feels Magrica grab one of his antennae. He swings her around and gives her a pointed look. There are not enough hours in the day, days in the year, or years in the whole of time for you to do that for everyone on Lacran. She tells him plainly, I'm aware not everyone's going to need a personal touch. I hope so, she says, letting go of his antenna and letting herself drop. So, is there going to be more or... I'm nearly 80 years old, little Metak. I'm in control of myself, Elder Granzi states. If you say so. But weren't you two big guys going to have a bit of fun together? Magrica says, flashing a grin at Emmanuel and Horus. You know what? She's right, Horus says as he grabs Emmanuel by the back of the head. And what do you plan to do about it? Emmanuel asks as he slowly stands up and takes a step away from Elder Granzi. Is this a warrior thing or a male thing? Elder Granzi asks. Warrior, you should see the brawls in the snowbanks back home. No Orthani in sight, but there's white flying everywhere, Magrica says with a grin. I get to fight the winner, you two? Deal, both men say, and Horus suddenly shifts and hurls Emmanuel into the air, then launches himself off the ground like human artillery and slams into his Orthani brother. Now the major weakness of this place appears to be its openness, but do not let that fool you. The Aramenta sworn here use their gifts in the strangest of ways. I have seen Waterborn carve through stone like a carver through the softest woods. I've seen and understood the plans of the Windborn. They are becoming very dangerous. Any move made here will be extremely, Xavier explains, trying to let the army down gently. She's seen how insanely powerful these Undaunted are. Their training technique works too quickly and creates a warrior far too willful, creative, and enduring to be easily countered. But these women have spent their lives. She snaps up, her increasing ability to sense the shifting of light guiding her to see. Brace yourselves. We're near the sparring fields. She orders everyone just before the crashing boom. A cloud of dust is kicked up, and she rushes over to see both her captor and his brother rise from the smoke. They shuck all clothing above the waist. In Horus, this reveals a physique so muscular that he could grind meat against it. In Emmanuel, it shows off just how fluffy that shiny fur is. The contrast is downright comical, but that shiny fur is a big advantage. That fur's a weakness, fluffy boy, Horus states. Oh? How is invulnerable fur an issue? Emmanuel challenges him with a backhanded swat to the chest to really drive it home. That's when Horus grabs a hefty handful of Urthani chest fur. Leverage! He then lifts up Emmanuel one-handed and hurls him over the field. However, Emmanuel is very used to aerial maneuvering and quickly rights himself before digging in his claws to skid to a safe stop. Good to know, Emmanuel says, before blurring forward and slamming a curled claw into Horus. The man mostly catches the blow, but he still lets out a grunt as he manages to get a grip on Emmanuel's arm. He then slams a foot into the Urthani's midsection with enough force that a shockwave knocks into the watching crowd and staggers them. Ah, so we're sparring that hard. We're having fun with your invulnerability, big man. Think you can take it? Or do you want your mommy here? Well, it's not like we can get yours here, so mine will have to do. Emmanuel counters as he takes a heavy and solid stance. That's not how the taunt is supposed to— Oh, shit! Brace! Horus calls out to the crowd just as Emmanuel moves to slam him into the ground with a gigantic amount of axiom to assist. Then he abruptly shifts everything and, using his wings for balance, hurls Horus straight up, his bellow Dopplers as he rises upwards at speeds just shy of the sound barrier. He can actually feel the air compressing around him. That little touch just before the bang, but not quite reaching into it. Horus turns just in time to catch an Urthani bullet slamming into his stomach. Turnaround's fair play, Emmanuel says as they wrestle in the air and Horus squirms out of his grip and kicks away to start a free fall. Emmanuel swoops after him. My turf! Stick it up, you surf little brother, Horus calls out as he gathers axiom. Then as Emmanuel gets close, he abruptly somersaults in the air and then jumps off nothing to drive an elbow into Emmanuel's chest. The dive turns into a tumble as both men trade blows as they fall. The sheer sound of the blows is enough to be easily heard on the ground below. Emmanuel veers away despite Horus's best efforts and fully extends his wings to start battering and disorienting his brother. The other man is having none of it and grabs on, only to find his grip slipping fast as the natural dust that coats the wings makes any grip a sliding one, until it isn't, and his nails dig in past the dust. Gotcha, Mr. Immortal, Horus says, using axiom to increase his own relative mass, and starts falling faster, dragging down Emmanuel, who scowls before pushing past the sensation of his wing tearing and breaks both of their falls. Found the weakness, Flutter Boy. What do you do when I got your wing? Horus calls to Emmanuel as they hit the ground and try to rise. But Horus is using his control of the wing to try and keep Emmanuel at a distance. Then he has to dodge to proboscis. What I must, Emmanuel answers as his claws suddenly dig into the earth and the ground below. Horus goes off like he stepped on a landmine. This breaks Horus's grip, and Emmanuel snaps his wings into a folded position again to protect them. I am more than just my physiology, brother. I have been learning. Good, so have I, Horus says, before punching at Emmanuel, and the axiom forms a hard, light fist that drives into Emmanuel's chest. It has all the force of one of Horus's actual fists, and as he steps in to grind the blow further, the first moves with him. There's been a breakthrough in shield techniques, at least. I've had one. Good. This stays interesting then, Emmanuel says, and both men smile. Then they charge each other again. The mutual tackle has enough force to knock back the watching crowd. How do you fight a god of war? Lady Dawnbreak asks in horror.